You're not tired. Your mind is overloaded, and that's why rest doesn't bring relief, only more fatigue. Even after a full day of doing nothing, your head feels heavy, your thoughts scattered, your energy missing. This isn't just tiredness. It's mental noise piling up, draining you without you even noticing it happen. So if your body isn't worn out, why does your brain feel like it's barely holding on? You keep wondering, why do I feel like this? But the answer isn't as obvious as you think. Your mind is constantly being pulled in every direction by screens, sounds, and endless input you barely register. Even in your quiet moments, your brain is processing everything it's been fed: scrolls, messages, random thoughts, unfinished tasks. It never gets a break, and over time, that constant noise turns into a kind of low-level mental suffocation. You're not resting, you're buffering. Every time you check your phone out of boredom, your brain lights up like it's solving a crisis. Those tiny dopamine hits stack up fast, and while they feel harmless, they overload your system bit by bit. Eventually, your mind starts to short-circuit, not because it's weak, but because it's overstimulated. This is why even silence feels uncomfortable now. You've forgotten what real stillness is. When you finally pause, your brain doesn't know what to do with the emptiness, so it panics. You reach for distraction before you even realize it, craving noise the way a stressed body craves sugar. And yet, the very thing you keep chasing for relief is what's making the fog worse. It's not just a habit. It's a cycle your brain has fallen into, and the longer it goes, the heavier it gets. But what if this constant stimulation isn't just numbing your mind? It's also draining your drive. What if the very chemical that's supposed to help you focus and feel alive is being burned out? To understand that, we need to talk about dopamine and what happens when your brain gets too much of it. Dopamine was never meant to be the enemy, but when abused, it quietly turns on you. It's the brain's motivator, the spark that pushes you to chase goals, solve problems, stay curious. But when every notification, every reel, every scroll floods your system, your dopamine receptors start to dull. What once drove you now just drips out in tiny bursts that barely register, and eventually, even that fades. When your brain is constantly stimulated, it stops seeing any one thing as important. Focus becomes harder, not because you're incapable, but because your brain's reward system is fried. You start dozens of tasks, finish none, and wonder why even the easy stuff feels impossible to complete. That's not laziness. It's neurochemical exhaustion disguised as apathy. Even rest feels like a task because your mind no longer recognizes peace as pleasurable. Doing nothing becomes unbearable, not because you need stimulation, but because your brain forgot how to sit still. So you reach again for the phone, the TV, the noise, anything to avoid the awkwardness of being undistracted. But the more you run from boredom, the further you drift from mental clarity. This is the trap so many fall into, chasing comfort through overuse of dopamine only to lose their inner drive. But here's the good news. This cycle isn't permanent, and your brain is more adaptable than you think. You don't need to quit everything, disappear, or escape the modern world to reset your mental energy. What you need is a strategy, a way to give your brain the reset it's silently begging for. That reset doesn't come from doing nothing all day. It comes from intentional rest, not passive escape. You've been tricked into thinking rest means lying down with your phone, zoning out to noise and comfort. But that kind of rest keeps your mind half awake, always reacting, never fully recovering. True rest is active. It requires stillness, presence, and just enough discomfort to let your brain exhale. The first step is 1 hour a day with no stimulation at all. No phone, no music, no background TV, just silence and space for your mind to breathe again. It won't feel relaxing at first. In fact, it might feel painfully boring or even unsettling. But that's the point because boredom is not your enemy. It's your mind's way of clearing the fog. Next, give yourself permission to be still without needing to be productive. Let your thoughts wander. Let your brain process the backlog of noise it's been holding onto. You'll start to notice small things again: your breath, the light in the room, an idea surfacing from nowhere. This is how you begin to reconnect with your mind, not through effort, but through space. Finally, before you dive into your day, do one thing that takes real effort. A cold shower, a long walk, 5 minutes of writing. Anything that demands presence and intention. Starting hard gives your brain structure, a natural rhythm that replaces mindless stimulation. Because real peace isn't found in comfort, it's built through small, intentional acts of strength. Those small, intentional acts of strength are what begin to rewire your brain for clarity instead of chaos. You start training your mind to respond to effort, not just to ease, and that shift changes everything. Each time you resist the urge to distract yourself, you create space for attention to return. It's not about productivity. It's about healing the fractured focus that overstimulation has worn thin. As you rebuild this focus, something subtle happens. Your thoughts slow down. You begin to notice a stillness between them, a kind of mental breathing room you forgot existed. That space is where clarity lives, not in endless consumption, but in the quiet between impulses. Suddenly, small tasks feel lighter, conversations feel deeper, and your mind starts to feel like your own again. This clarity doesn't mean your life becomes perfect or your energy is limitless, but you'll feel more in control, like your attention is something you can direct, not something hijacked by every ping. You'll catch yourself reaching for distractions less often because you won't feel the need to escape so much. And when you do rest, it'll actually restore you instead of leaving you just as drained as before. That's when you realize your problem was never about being tired or unmotivated. You weren't lazy, you were overloaded, living in a world that never lets your mind go quiet. But knowing this gives you an edge, because now you can choose differently, live more intentionally. And once you see that clearly, you'll understand the real cost of constant stimulation. That constant stimulation wasn't just draining your energy. It was quietly stealing your presence. When your brain is always busy reacting, you stop noticing the life happening right in front of you. Moments blur together. Conversations feel shallow, and even joy becomes something you scroll past, not something you feel. It's not that life is boring. It's that your mind's too crowded to fully experience it. This overstimulation affects more than just your focus. It rewires how you process reality. You become addicted to novelty, needing more and more just to feel a spark of interest. Your baseline for excitement keeps rising, which makes ordinary life feel dull and empty in comparison. The world becomes background noise, and your thoughts never have a chance to slow down and land. Even your memory suffers because your brain can't store what it doesn't fully absorb. You forget what you read, zone out during conversations, lose track of tasks halfway through. It feels like your attention span is shrinking, but really, your brain is drowning in unfiltered input. And when everything feels like too much, your instinct is to check out instead of tuning in. This is why so many people feel numb, even when their lives are full, even when they're resting. It's not a lack of time or opportunity. It's a lack of presence, a disconnection from the now. But that disconnection can be reversed, not by doing more, but by choosing to do less with intention. And to start regaining that presence, you need to retrain your mind to find peace in simplicity. Peace doesn't come from adding more. It comes from subtracting what's been numbing you. When you strip away the noise, even the smallest things start to feel meaningful again. You notice how calming a quiet room can be, how grounding a walk without your phone truly feels. Simplicity isn't boring. It's what allows your mind to finally rest without running from itself. The more you practice this, the more you begin to feel whole again. You're no longer scattered across apps, tabs, and timelines. You're present in your own life. You find moments of stillness that don't feel empty, but full of awareness and quiet satisfaction. And that satisfaction doesn't come from stimulation. It comes from depth and intention. This kind of peace isn't loud or exciting. It's steady, and that's what makes it powerful. You don't need to escape into screens or constant noise to feel okay. You start to realize that discomfort isn't always a signal to flee. It's often a sign you're healing. With time, your mind begins to crave this simplicity the way it once craved distraction. And once you feel that shift, you understand something deeper about rest and recovery. You see that real energy doesn't come from doing less, but from aligning your attention with what matters. You stop reacting to life and start responding to it with clarity instead of chaos. That's when stillness stops feeling like a pause and starts feeling like power. Once you see stillness as the foundation of living well, you start to feel your energy return. It's not the jittery high from caffeine or scrolling, but a steady and lasting fuel. You wake up clear, able to think without the fog of constant stimulation. This is your mind reclaiming the space it had been losing for so long. With more mental space, tasks stop feeling like mountains you can't climb. You begin approaching work without the usual sense of dread or overload. Your thoughts feel organized instead of scattered and unfinished. Energy is no longer chased. It becomes the state you naturally rest in. This renewed clarity touches your relationships in powerful ways. You listen more fully and respond with genuine attention. Time with the loved ones feels richer because you're actually present. Real connection starts to replace the shallow rush of constant distraction. But to keep this energy, you must protect it like something valuable. It's not a one-time win, but a lifestyle of mindful boundaries. The pull of distraction will always try to drag you back. And that's why you must learn to stay grounded even when the world gets louder. Learning to stay grounded when the world gets louder is the key to lasting mental clarity. It means choosing what gets your attention instead of letting everything claim it. You begin to see focus as a limited resource, one that needs careful management. Every yes to distraction is a no to the things that truly matter. Protecting focus starts with simple, repeatable habits you stick to daily. Turning off notifications, setting phone-free hours, and creating quiet zones all make a difference. These small boundaries build a shield between you and the endless stream of noise. Over time, your brain learns to function without constant interruption. The more you defend this space, the stronger your mental resilience becomes. You can step into busy environments without feeling instantly overwhelmed. Instead of reacting to every piece of input, you choose what's worth your energy. That choice is what keeps your clarity intact even on chaotic days. But focus alone isn't enough to keep your mind healthy in the long run. You also need to nurture it with activities that sharpen and refresh it. This is where challenge and growth become as important as rest. And understanding that balance is the final step to feeling fully alive again. Challenge and growth are the fuel that keep your mind sharp once it has had the chance to rest. When you push yourself in small but consistent ways, you give your brain a reason to stay engaged. This could be learning a skill, solving a problem, or completing a task you have been avoiding. Each challenge becomes proof that your mind is capable and alive. Rest without challenge can lead to stagnation, just as challenge without rest leads to burnout. The power comes from finding a rhythm where both coexist naturally. You recharge through quiet, intentional rest, then use that energy to face meaningful difficulty. This cycle strengthens not only your focus, but your confidence in it. Over time, you will notice that life starts to feel lighter even when it is not easier. Obstacles no longer drain you the way they once did because your mind is prepared. You know how to slow down when you need clarity and push forward when you need growth. It becomes a way of living rather than a short-term fix. And that is the real shift. You stop chasing constant comfort and start building lasting strength. You realize that peace is not the absence of effort, but the presence of balance. Your brain works with you instead of against you, and your energy feels like it is truly yours. From here, you are not just awake in your body, you are fully awake in your life.